Welcome guys to another episode of Boom Arena. Today we're gonna be analyzing the top decks that finished in the previous season, and it's gonna be the episode 4 actually of this series. Today we're gonna be analyzing the deck of Here Lies Him, the top 7 finisher, and he's playing just a classic Steelbait. So this deck already had been solved. I won't be talking much about how to play with this deck. I'm gonna just talk about how I like this position of this deck in this meta, and yeah, I'm gonna be mostly talking like empirically, so you're gonna have to see from my gameplay where it's good or bad. I don't think that Steelbait actually has that bad of a position, but in my opinion at least, they are just better decks to use. So the first thing that I want to cover with a Steelbait is its versatility. It's pretty much the deck that can be played against any deck with a major success, except some niche concepts. Like, for instance, I don't like the Steelbait position in this meta, just because of the Fire Tiny. Fire Tiny is absolute a killer of fun, and if your opponent is good enough, he can just use a Fire Tiny to counter your Phone Cake every time for 2 mana less, and obviously that's huge. I'm gonna try to play this matchup very aggressively because I have the feeling that he's playing a Steelbait as well, and right now he's just wasting Rolling Steel. I think that's the perfect way of punishing his arrogance and playing a Rolling Steel against my Bomb Girl. He's gonna get a Bomb Girl on his own, which is fine, I guess. He's gonna take 2 shots, and right now I'm gonna just retaliate with my own. He's gonna be playing Phone Horde, but it's just not enough. I'm gonna get a very fat lock, and very likely is that he's gonna be playing right now a Phone Cake of his own. And okay, I thought it's gonna happen, but it doesn't look like it. Yeah, he's gonna even get 1 hit. This blitz was very clutch for him. Obviously with a very obvious drawback that he won't be able to defend my push right now. I'm gonna be playing very aggressively right now with my Phone Cake, and okay, I forgot he has a Rolling Steel of his own, so he's gonna get away with that. Not a big of the deal. This game is very messy and aggressive though, so he's playing a Steelbait with a 2 small spells, which usually is considered as a aggressive approach because you will be able to play more troops and just supplement them on the way. I'm gonna play Phone Horde here to snipe this Bomb Girl. Always nice to see if you can snipe it. Also, the offensive decks usually have a cheaper spells to just be more out on the map. Okay, that's gonna be an obvious Rolling Steel for me. I'm not gonna block that, but it was already good enough. I'm gonna get this Bomb Girl eventually, and yeah. The major issue with these type of decks, which are very aggressive, is that you won't be able to have a bigger spell. So if your opponent gets to the position like we did right now, I'm gonna just be able to throw missiles or 2 and close the game before the clock runs out. Also, a very big thing for this deck to work is that you kinda have to know what you're doing. It's not a deck that is very intuitional, it's that deck that is not a aggressive one, which will complement the player that will just have the aggressive instinct on when to go in and when not to. It's one of these decks which kinda scores better if it only is being played in one way, and it's just defend, throw your win condition, and if it fails, just throw some spells. So that's gonna be one of these decks that are gonna be very plain and repetitive in a way, but it can also be a very good material to learn something, because obviously if you're repeating the same interaction 100 times, at some point it's gonna be pretty much a natural thing for you to play it out without making a single mistake. Like you've seen, this rolling still only stops the Super Ape if I'm playing it in a correct position, and I did, which is nice. And yeah, my opponent will be playing a more of a heavy deck, so he's gonna be trying to break my defense. And if we keep the attitude that we have kept so far, it's gonna be absolutely no chance for him. We're gonna just have to outplay him. That's pretty much the way that this deck plays. It's the outplay deck, which pretty much assumes that you are better than your opponent and that you will play the same exact things over and over again, and your opponent won't be skilled enough to just break through. And that's one of the premise of playing this deck. Like you've seen right here, I was able to defend these 12 mana already, push with a 6. Right now I will just minimize the damage from this T-Rex. It's not really a defense, but just a optimization, or optimization, however it's pronounced. I think he's gonna be playing another Viking, which pretty much means that we will have a free range to attack, but we'll have to be very careful on defense because, well, there are two Vikings after all, and with Steelbait it's usually a very good thing to play against Viking because Viking is very slow, it gets kited very well, and it doesn't provide like a huge offensive value. So Viking in nature is a defensive card, but nowadays you usually see it in the decks like a bridge spam or some defensive decks. So that's the thing going for us. In a defensive deck skirmish, Steelbait is pretty much unstoppable because of its interesting mechanics. Another thing that makes this deck scary is that it has two win conditions and you cannot stop both. In fact, you cannot stop the second one, and the second one is obviously spell cycle. And once the spell is thrown, you cannot counterplay it with any troop, with any spell and any building. And that's the scary thing about the Steelbait, but the thing you have to realize that you can stop the spell cycle indirectly, because your opponent usually won't be willing to spell cycle against you if you're having a very heavy deck that will just kill you in one go. And if you are getting killed in one go, all of your spell cycle damage pretty much comes down the drain. Because you're dead. What can I say more? So, this deck we are gonna be playing has two win conditions. One of them is a Fonkax, which will be thrown through the entire game, so our opponent will have to play pretty much without a small spell. And if he wants to play a small spell against us, he's gonna have to be very cautious about it. I'm gonna right now predict the Piercing Archer. It didn't happen, but sometimes it might, and when it does, it feels very good. So yeah. Some Font Hat right here against this Swordman. Nothing too shabby. He's gonna play a Piercing Archer, which in my opinion is very good Piercing Archer because his follow-up... Oh. Unless this Piercing Archer dies. If this Piercing Archer dies, it was a bad Piercing Archer, without a doubt. This will get 2 hits. I'm gonna... Right now, okay. I will have to eat these Bone Blasters, since I've used the Ice Tiny to counter the opposite lane. I didn't have any way to play against it. And right now, we're gonna be playing against another defensive deck. So this deck we are facing right now is known as a Remy Alley deck, which is also known as a pro player warm-up deck. And it's very good in the good hands. I really don't want to take this hit. I didn't, which is nice. And this deck pretty much relies on the premise also that you're better than your opponent. That's pretty much how all cycle decks work. And yeah, I'm gonna just play a Font Hat and pretty much minimize this Digger damage, because if I weren't to play a Font Hat, I would have to play a Sword. Okay, that's just bad. I'm gonna play some missile here. And right now he's gonna just try to close the position, which is a good thing to do against the deck like mine. Because with the close position you pretty much cannot do anything. He should be playing Piercing Archer right now, and that was the best play for him. Okay, that's gonna be actually very close game for me. So I'm gonna have to be more cautious than usually. I'm gonna play some Prediction Swordman so he cannot just go with the Piercing Archer. Okay, he goes with the Piercing Archer, but it wasn't the most optimal one. Okay, he's gonna play some Bone Blasters. I don't mind that. I'm gonna predict his Digger, which is very huge, and I think that's gonna be a play that wins us the game, right? Once again, I'm gonna block the Piercing Archer and hope. Fortunately, we won this game. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to show some gameplay against more of a aggressive decks, how this deck defends, because that's when it really shines, but in a defensive deck scenario, Steelbait is almost unbeatable, and that's the reason why it was very used deck by a top 10 player. And that's gonna pretty much sum things up for this deck. It's very well known, very widely used, and pretty easy to pick up, but hard to master. If you want to get better at the game, you pretty much just want to grind one of these cycle decks, and Steelbait is definitely one of them. If you want to learn some new interactions, to get better at just microing, or just be more aware of the situation and making right calls, it's the deck to use. And I think that's gonna be a wraparound for today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this type of content, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next episode of Boom Arena.